Consumerism. The idea that increasing the consumption of goods and services is economically desirable. In turn, people are inclined to spend more money on materialistic items. This creates a relationship between the demand in society and the supply that is created based on the demand.
It is important to talk about consumerism because the majority of environmental issues stem off of the fact that consumerism is so deeply rooted in our lives. In our money-motivated society, we create a demand for many products which are created by extracting our natural resources.
The key factors of consumerism in relation to the environment is population, technology, and consumption. Because we are such a growing country and technology is constantly changing our everyday lives, the amount the average person consumes is skyrocketing.
So you may be wondering, what do we do about this?
What must we ask ourselves?
Is there a way for consumerism to benefit everyone?
How would our world be different without consumerism?
Is there a problem with consumerism?
Is it better to fulfill our wants rather than the needs of our community?
If we don't change our ways, will our children be left vulnerable?
Is consumerism an injustice? These are some examples of the Catholic social teachings that these issues violate.
The first example is stewardship of creation. Catholic tradition excites the idea that we must show respect for our earth and take care of it. We must live in harmony with all of God's creation and protect all people and our planet.
Plan of attack: oil sands. To solve this economic and environmental issue, we would have to reduce the amount of oil we use in our everyday lives. By reducing the amount of oil we use, it will ultimately lower the demand for oil. When the demand for oil is low, oil companies will not produce as much and will therefore have a lesser environmental impact. Catholic perspective: oil sands. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray, and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and forgive their sin and heal their land. Pope Francis' encyclical proposes integral ecology, which clearly respects its human and social dimensions, which links to the environmental question. So he wants everyone to work together, the politically, socially, economically, and environmentally. Two environmentalist groups that need to be heard in particular are Canadians Oil Sands Innovation Alliance and the U.S. Bishops Environmental Justice Program. Both of these groups speak out against the dirty, non-sustainable extraction of Canadian oil in Alberta and raise awareness for this issue. They ask the government in particular to regulate Canadian oil sands more tightly and to recognize the disaster that they are causing. My next view is where the government stands in relation to Canadian oil sands. The Conservatives and the Liberals are both for the oil sands, as they feel that they generate a lot of good things to our economy, and also the government can make lots of tax money off them. The NDP likes the oil sands, but is wishing that there is a cleaner way to extract them and are willing to provide money so that we can do this. However, the Green Party is definitely against the oil sands. One of the main opposing views is the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers, which is a corporation who says that they are generating greatness to the Canadian economy. Some of their key points is that they are contributing to the economy in 12 out of 13 provinces, that the oil sands provide jobs for 514,000 Canadians, and that the oil sands has made Fort McMurray one of the fastest growing communities in North America. One more is that the Canadian oil sands provided $5.5 million to support Aboriginal community programs. When the Toyota Priuses first came out, the Canadian government, as well as Toyota, issued a $4,000 rebate each to customers buying the Toyota Prius hybrid car. However, this ended after just 1 year. Also, activist groups like the U.S. Bishops Environmental Justice Program and Canadians Oil Sands Innovation Alliance have spoken out about Alberta's oil sands in particular, as they are causing a huge environmental disaster. Also, they have raised awareness for this idea. Although demand is a key factor, we need to present the consumer with a substitute good that is reasonably priced, environmentally friendly, and sustainable. In order to make sure that we don't encounter an economic recession or depression, we will need to make sure that the new substitute good is making up for the loss of jobs in the oil industry. Though the Government of Canada recognizes that the Canadian oil sands have a negative impact on Canada, they still continue to support them because they generate large tax money, which goes against the Catholic social teaching of rule of government. Consumerism in relation to oil sands is organizing our society with divisions based on your financial status. Essentially, consumerism is creating an economic divide in our society, which is negatively impacting our environment, as the wealthier people have a larger environmental footprint and the poorer people are forced to clean up. Ultimately, there is no unity within our community.
Deforestation. There are three main contributing factors to deforestation. There's a high demand for timber, there's weak laws, and poorly implemented trade rules. Trees need to be cut down in order to produce lumber, and currently it is not done in a sustainable fashion. There is a high increase in the demand for lumber, so there needs to be more lumber supplied. This cycle is not sustainable. Canada has a sustainable forest industry because of the fact that 90% of forests are publicly owned, which allows different governments to have jurisdiction over the forest industry. These strict regulations are enforced to provide a sustainable future for our forests. My solution would be to model the Amazon rainforest after that of the Canadian forest industry. Currently, the Amazon rainforest is owned by wealthy Brazilian private and corporate owners from the developed southeast region of the country, or foreign enterprises. Considering Brazil, Peru, and Colombia own 83% of the rainforest, it would be beneficial for them to re-establish their jurisdiction of the Amazon. With this type of authority, there will be newly implemented trade rules designed to create sustainability. Additionally, reducing the amount of lumber in everyday lives decreases the demand for lumber, which in turn saves trees and forests. Together, these two major changes would ensure that the Amazon rainforest is sustainable. Consumerism affects us all in different ways, and we all need our voices to be heard. Consumerism is partially what drives the economy, but too much of it can be detrimental. It is in finding a balance that we satisfy all parties. To find a balance, there are three parties that need to be heard from. Firstly, the voice of the government, secondly, the voice of the corporations, and lastly, the environmentalists. It is when these opposing viewpoints work together that we can create a sustainable future. Solidarity is the concept that we are all one family despite potential differences we may have. It does not matter where we come from, we must all unite as one in order to live a prosperous life. It is important to protect our trees because they support and sustain life. The trees aid in photosynthesis, which converts carbon dioxide into the oxygen we breathe. The trees give homes to wildlife, and they control climate by moderating the effects of the sun, rain, and wind, and this is only to name a few examples. The Catholic perspective on deforestation is that it's ultimately a bad thing. There is a passage from the Bible that states, "I brought you into a fertile land to eat its fruit and rich produce, but you came and defiled my land and made my inheritance detestable." Pope Francis calls us to change our ways when he states in the encyclical, "Our lack of response to these tragedies involving our brothers and sisters points to the loss of that sense of responsibility for our fellow men and women upon which all civil society is founded."